With the harvest gathered and jars sealed, you'd think we could just kick back and relax until spring. But what if I told you that right now, as you look at your empty garden beds, you might be making the single biggest mistake of the entire gardening season? A mistake that come spring will cost you a valuable harvest, wasted effort, and hard-earned money. Today we're going to dive into why leaving your soil naked through winter is nothing short of a crime against your garden. And I guarantee by the end of this video, you'll never look at your bare garden beds the same way again. For centuries, it was commonly believed that the soil simply needed to rest. You'd turn over the earth in autumn, leaving big clumps to overwinter, and it felt like you'd done everything just right. This habit has been passed down through generations, and on the surface, seems perfectly logical. But modern agronomy views this entire process in a completely different light. Nature abhors a vacuum, and what we perceive as rest for the soil is actually a period of intense hardship and degradation. So let's kick things off with the biggest enemy that attacks your garden beds the moment you harvest your last crop. Its name is erosion. It might sound a bit scientific, but in reality it's outright theft, happening right under your nose, especially during the harsh autumn weather. Picture your empty, dark garden beds. Now, a strong autumn wind whips through. It's not just scattering dry leaves across your plot. It picks up and carries away the finest, lightest, and most precious particles of your topsoil. It's like blowing away dust. But this dust is concentrated fertility, your precious humus, built up over years. Inch by inch, your garden grows poorer, and you might not even realise it, but wind is just one part of the equation. Now let's factor in autumn rains. Each raindrop hitting the unprotected soil strikes it like a tiny hammer. It breaks down the soil structure, turning it into a soupy mud. Then, rivulets of this muddy runoff simply stream off your beds, carrying away all that rich goodness for your future plants. Come spring, take a look at the ditches and low spots. You'll find the richest topsoil from your garden there. You are literally losing your gardening gold, letting it wash away to nowhere. And that's the first and most obvious reason why bare soil is a disaster. Now, let's talk about what happens after. The rain stops, the water evaporates, leaving behind what? That's right, a crust as hard as concrete on the surface of your garden bed. You've probably seen this after a heavy downpour. The soil cracks, turns grey, and becomes incredibly dense. This process is known as soil crusting or soil capping. Raindrops hitting bare ground don't just wash away the fertile topsoil, they also destroy its delicate, porous structure. Tiny clay and dust particles clog up all the air channels, bonding together to form a solid, impenetrable cap. So what's the impact on your garden? Well, for starters, this type of soil simply can't breathe anymore. Oxygen can't penetrate to plant roots, whether they're still in the ground or just starting to emerge, or to the vital beneficial microorganisms. They literally suffocate. And secondly, when the next rain comes, the water won't soak in. It'll simply run off this hardened surface, leading to even more erosion. Come spring, when you head out to the garden with your hoe or broadfork, you won't be gently cultivating. You'll be practically breaking up concrete. It means extra work for you, and immense stress for the very soil you've unintentionally brought to this state. But even if the water doesn't erode the soil and simply soaks deep into the ground, it's still too early to breathe a sigh of relief. Because here, another unseen danger awaits us: nutrient leaching. Imagine your garden bed as a giant coffee filter or a tea bag. Every autumn rain, every bit of spring meltwater, acts like hot water pouring through that filter. And what happens? As the water seeps through the soil, it dissolves and carries away everything valuable. First, it washes away easily soluble nitrogen, the primary nutrient plants need for vigorous spring growth. Then, potassium, magnesium, calcium, all those beneficial nutrients you diligently added during the summer with fertilizers, compost, or ash, are simply flushed down into the deeper soil layers. They vanish to depths your future carrots or radishes will never reach. Essentially, you're voluntarily rinsing your soil, impoverishing it, Come spring, you return to a garden that looks perfectly normal on the surface, but underneath, it's empty, it's hungry, and you'll have to spend more money and effort to replenish what's been lost. Losses that, in most cases, could have been easily avoided. A garden bed isn't just soil, it's a densely populated metropolis teeming with life. I'm talking about our main helpers, earthworms tirelessly aerating the soil, and billions of beneficial microorganisms that transform organic matter into readily available plant food. They're a true underground army working tirelessly for our harvest. Now for this entire army, a bare bed, left exposed to the elements, wind, frost, and everything in between, is nothing short of a disaster, a death sentence. First, their food supply vanishes. All those plant residues, roots, fallen leaves, that's their breakfast, lunch and dinner. By clearing everything away, we condemn them to starvation. Secondly, their shelter disappears. Icy cold penetrates much deeper into the soil, literally freezing out all life. Your fertile soil turns into a lifeless, frozen desert for the winter. Most of these tiny workers simply perish. And in spring, you're left not just with poor soil, but biologically dead soil that will take a very long time to regain its vitality. This, in turn, will directly impact the health and growth of your future plants. And remember the golden rule: nature abhors a vacuum. Empty spaces simply don't stay empty. This couldn't be more true for your garden. If you don't deliberately cultivate something beneficial in your beds, nature will fill that void herself. And believe me, the result won't be pretty. Your exposed, vulnerable soil becomes the ideal landing strip for weed seeds. Autumn winds carry them for miles. Dandelion, couch grass, ground elder, thistle seeds. All these opportunistic invaders see your empty patch and treat it as an open invitation. They're thinking, what a fantastic free space to hunker down for winter and get a jump start in spring. These seeds land, take root with the autumn rains, and patiently bide their time. Come spring, instead of a clean, ready-to-plant bed, you'll be faced with a dense green carpet of the most stubborn weeds, already firmly established. And that can only mean one thing: your gardening season won't kick off with the joyful act of planting, but with heavy, exhausting, and often endless weeding. You've essentially created the perfect breeding ground for these invaders. Bare soil creates extreme temperature swings for your garden. Think about it. During the day, even under a weak winter sun, dark, exposed soil absorbs a bit of warmth, but at night with no protective blanket, it rapidly loses that heat and freezes solid. These constant, sharp freeze-thaw cycles, especially during periods without snow cover, act as a powerful destructive force. Remember basic physics. Water in the soil expands as it freezes. This icy expansion literally shatters soil aggregates, those crucial clumps that give soil its loose, fertile structure, into tiny particles. A few cycles might even seem beneficial, loosening things up. But when it happens dozens of times throughout the winter, the soil structure is completely destroyed. Ultimately, fertile soil with a good, granular structure turns into a fine, structureless dust. In spring, the first strong wind will easily blow this dust away, and the first heavy rain will instantly turn it into an impenetrable, concrete-like crust. This brings us right back to the problems of erosion and compaction, effectively completing a vicious cycle. Ultimately, all these destructive processes, erosion, leaching, and the death of microorganisms, lead to one critical loss: the depletion of organic matter, or humus. Humus is more than just a component of the soil. It's its heart, its soul, and its stomach, all rolled into one. It's that dark, crumbly substance that gives soil its fertility. Acting like a sponge, humus locks in moisture, preventing your garden beds from drying out. Like a pantry, it stores essential nutrients, releasing them to plants as required. And it's humus that binds soil particles into aggregates, creating that vital porous, breathable structure. However, on bare garden beds, the process of humus formation grinds to a halt. For its creation requires plant residues, the very food for worms and bacteria. Instead, the existing humus is ruthlessly broken down by the sun, wind, and rain. With each passing season, its levels diminish, and your land slowly but surely transforms from a living organism into lifeless, mineral earth. So, what exactly do we get come springtime? Let's take an honest look. By leaving our garden beds empty all winter, we're just setting ourselves up for a world of problems. Instead of arriving at our gardens, ready to joyfully begin planting, we're confronted with a truly disheartening sight. The ground is impoverished, all its nutrients leached away by the autumn rains. It compacts and hardens like concrete, its structure ruined by the relentless pounding of raindrops. And on top of all that, it becomes densely overgrown with weeds that have not only survived the winter beautifully, but are also the first to spring to life. Essentially, all our spring efforts will be spent not on creation, but on fixing our own autumn blunders. We'll have to spend energy breaking up this concrete, money on tons of fertilizers just to somehow nourish this depleted earth, and precious time on an endless battle against weeds. Isn't that too steep a price to pay for the habit of just leaving things as they are? So, what's the answer? Is everything truly so hopeless? Of course not. There is a solution, and it's so simple, so brilliant that nature itself shows us the way. Have you ever noticed a patch of bare, exposed earth in a forest or meadow? No. Nature always seeks to cover the ground with fallen leaves, dry grasses, a lush carpet of plants. Nature abhors a vacuum. This is the core principle of intelligent, organic farming. The soil must be covered. Don't leave it vulnerable to the elements. Create a kind of blanket or a living coat for it. This protective covering solves every single problem we've just discussed. It will shield the soil from the impact of rain and wind, preventing erosion. It will retain moisture and maintain a loose, airy structure. It will become a home and food source for earthworms and beneficial microorganisms. It will suppress weed growth. And most importantly, it won't just preserve, but continuously enhance the fertility of your soil. And for this, we have two incredibly powerful tools at our disposal. Our first and arguably most effective, even dynamic tool is the use of cover crops. And if you're hearing that term for the first time, don't let it intimidate you. Cover crops are simply plants we grow, not for consumption, but purely to benefit the soil itself. They're often called green manures, and that name truly speaks for itself. So, what's their superpower? First off, they grow incredibly fast. Sow them in the fall after your harvest, and in just a few weeks, you'll literally have a lush green carpet that perfectly blankets the soil. This acts as that living blanket, protecting your soil from all the harshness of winter. Secondly, cover crops typically boast incredibly robust root systems. These thousands of tiny roots penetrate deep into the soil, loosening and structuring it better than any spade or cultivator ever could. They create vital channels for air and water within the earth, and once they die off, these roots become a feast for beneficial soil organisms. Essentially, cover crops do all the heaviest lifting when it comes to improving your soil. Let's dive into some specific examples of these cover crop superheroes. We'll kick things off with perhaps the most popular and readily available option, mustard. White mustard is an absolute powerhouse when it comes to rapid growth. Sow it, and within a month, you'll have a thick carpet of green covering your garden beds. But that's not its only trick. The real magic happens underground, where its roots release special compounds with powerful phytosanitary effects. In simpler terms, mustard naturally disinfects and cleanses the soil. It actively suppresses the development of nasty diseases like late blight and various rots that plague our tomatoes and potatoes. What's more, wireworms, one of the most persistent and damaging pests, can't stand it and will steer clear. So, by sowing mustard in the autumn, you're not just protecting and aerating your soil, you're also providing a preventative treatment. You're preparing a healthy, clean bed for the next season, significantly reducing the risk of future diseases and pest infestations. It's a fantastic 2-for-1, even 3-for-1 deal from a single simple action. Next up, our plant champion, phacelia. If mustard is the garden's clean-up crew, then phacelia is the ultimate soil architect. Many gardeners call it the ideal green manure, and for very good reason. First, let's look at its root system. It boasts a dense, fibrous network, a literal beard of thousands of fine roots that delves deep into the topsoil, reaching up to 20 centimetres. No mechanical cultivator can aerate the ground as gently and effectively. After phacelia, your soil becomes incredibly light, airy, almost like down. Secondly, phacelia is incredibly versatile. It's not related to any of our common garden vegetables or plants. This means it doesn't host or spread the same diseases and pests as your other crops, allowing you to sow it after or before any plant without disrupting your crop rotation. What's more, it's an excellent honey plant, drawing bees and other beneficial pollinator insects to your garden. So by planting phacelia, you're not just giving a gift to your soil, but to your entire garden ecosystem. But if you're looking to bring out the big guns for maximum impact, then winter cereals like rye or oats are your best bet. These are a time-honoured classic in green manuring, proven effective over centuries. What's their main advantage? Unlike mustard or phacelia, they won't succumb to the first frosts. Winter cereals continue their growth even through harsh freezes, and come spring, as soon as the snow melts, they are among the very first to reawaken and sprout. Throughout winter, they develop an incredibly powerful and dense root system that literally weaves through the soil, making its structure remarkably resilient. This offers superior protection against erosion, leaching, and compaction. What's more, rye and oats accumulate an impressive amount of green biomass. By spring, you'll have a generous supply of valuable organic matter, perfect for mulching. Rye also boasts a strong allelopathic effect, releasing compounds that effectively suppress the growth of most weeds, even tenacious ones like quackgrass. Planting rye in the fall essentially guarantees you a much cleaner, weed-free garden bed come spring. But what if it's too late to plant cover crops, or you simply don't have the option? Does that mean you have to leave your garden beds exposed? Absolutely not. Fortunately, we have a second, equally powerful defence: mulching. The term mulch itself comes from English, meaning to cover, and that's exactly what we're doing. We're creating a protective organic blanket over the soil surface. This technique, much like cover cropping, is also inspired by nature. Think of a forest floor, rich with fallen leaves and pine needles. That's the ideal natural mulch. The principle behind mulching is quite simple. A layer of mulch takes on all the harsh impacts of the elements. It cushions the force of raindrops, preventing soil compaction. It protects against wind erosion and drastic temperature swings. Beneath this insulating layer, the soil doesn't freeze as deeply, remaining loose and full of life. Mulching is truly the simplest and most accessible way to tell your garden, "Rest easy, I've taken care of you." Alright, so you've decided to mulch. But what should you use? You'll be delighted to know the answer. Almost anything you have on hand. No need to buy expensive materials. Your own garden and yard provide everything you need to create the perfect winter blanket. The most obvious choice is fallen leaves from your garden. Just make sure to collect leaves from healthy trees such as birch, maple, or linden. They are a true treasure trove of nutrients. Simply gather them and spread them over your garden beds in a layer 10–15 centimetres thick. Grass clippings left over from your last lawn mowing are also an excellent option. Slightly dry them out to prevent them from compacting into a dense mat, then confidently spread them over the soil. Straw or hay, if you have them available, are classic mulching materials. They create a very loose, breathable layer that your soil will absolutely love. Even the tops from healthy, disease-free plants, like carrots, beets, or zucchini, once shredded, will become an excellent cover and source of organic matter. All of these are invaluable resources that it would be a shame to simply burn or discard. Now let's peek under this organic blanket and see what magic unfolds there in winter. Do you think everything simply shuts down until spring? Far from it. A layer of mulch is much more than just a mechanical shield. It's essentially a 5-star restaurant and hotel for all the inhabitants of your soil. Earthworms, microscopic fungi, beneficial bacteria, they all flock to this feast. Right under the snow, in the unfrozen layer beneath the mulch, they're actively working all winter long. They consume this organic matter, leaves, grass clippings, straw, and tirelessly break it down. In doing so, they create that precious humus. The worms aerate the soil, creating tunnels and dramatically improving its structure, while microorganisms accumulate nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium in a readily available form. In fact, your garden bed isn't sleeping at all. It's hard at work. You've simply covered it for winter, and in return, it fertilizes itself, aerates itself, and even heals itself. You're initiating a continuous, self-sustaining process of soil enrichment that demands absolutely no effort from you. And now we come to one of those topics that often sparks lively debate among gardeners: what to do with cover crops in spring. The old school of thought insists you absolutely must dig them in. Incorporate that green mass deep into the soil. Well, seriously, forget that advice. You can ditch that idea right now. Digging them in is not only back-breaking labour, but it also completely destroys all that wonderful soil structure that your cover crops and earthworms have been diligently building for you throughout the autumn and winter. It's like spending months building a beautiful, sturdy house, only to bring in a bulldozer and tear it down. The modern, sensible approach is far simpler and much more effective. No spade required. You just need a sharp hoe or even a simple garden hoe. About 2 weeks before your planned plantings, you simply chop down the established cover crops right at soil level, and that's it. You leave all that green material lying directly on the garden bed. The roots remain in the soil, where they'll decompose, feeding your earthworms and leaving behind a network of beneficial channels that significantly improve soil aeration and drainage. And those green tops, that cut, green manure, they transform into, you guessed it, that perfect layer of mulch. You achieve a powerful double benefit. The roots loosen and aerate the soil from below, while the chopped greens protect and enrich the surface from above. So, what's the reward come spring, after putting these simple autumn practices into action? Let's paint a vivid picture. You step onto your garden plot, and instead of dull, grey, hard as concrete earth, you see a bed blanketed with the remnants of mulch or chopped cover crops. No shovel needed here. You simply brush aside this top layer with your hand or a small hand cultivator, and beneath it, a true marvel. Rich, black, loose, moist, crumbly soil. It's teeming with life. It smells of spring and fertility. You'll see the intricate tunnels of earthworms, busy at work, constantly aerating and enriching the soil. No need to dig, no need to haul in tons of fertilizer, and no need to spend hours wrestling with weeds that simply couldn't penetrate the dense, organic layer. All the heavy lifting has already been done for you, thanks to nature and your tiny subterranean allies. What you get isn't just a patch of dirt, it's a fully prepared, vibrant and fertile ecosystem, eager to welcome your seeds and deliver a healthy, bountiful harvest with the least amount of effort from your side. This is the ultimate payoff we were striving for. And now, for the game-changing secret that changes everything. When you plant cover crops or mulch your garden beds, you're not just preserving the soil for winter, you're actually kickstarting a continuous process of improvement. Your garden bed isn't sleeping, it's working for you all winter long. Beneath the snow, under that layer of organic matter, invisible life thrives. Worms aerate the soil. Bacteria break down organic material into readily available nutrients for your plants. Your garden transforms into a true fertility factory, all while you're sipping tea and gazing at the snowy landscape outside. Come spring, you won't need to exhaust yourself with heavy digging or hauling in tons of fertilizer. You'll simply push aside the mulch and plant your seeds in soil that's already prepared, alive and warm. Now that's what I call a real rest for the gardener, not the earth. To sum it up, leaving bare soil over winter inevitably leads to its depletion. A garden bed covered with cover crops or mulch is your investment in a future abundant and healthy harvest. The choice, I believe, is clear. Thanks for watching this video all the way to the end. If you learned something new and useful, please give us a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more gardening secrets. Now, a question for you. How do you prepare your garden beds for winter? Do you leave them bare, or do you already use cover crops and mulch? Share your experiences in the comments below. It would be fascinating to hear from you.